Hi, everybody. It's Sid, and we're back with the Thin Line podcast. I'm here with my co host, Eric Recker and Barbie Fagan. And in our last episode, we talked a little bit about who we were and our journey through life that got us here. But we haven't been as articulate about how we got to meet each other. One of the more unique things is we've all met each other on a mountain of some sort. And that mountain is 29029. And so I'm pretty excited to talk to you guys about what 29029 is, what we've done as a part of the 29029 community, and then a little bit about what that has meant to us on our journeys. And so that will be today's topic and theme. Eric, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what 29029 is?
Yeah, so 29029 was a crazy brainchild that was thought up by three guys, Jesse Itzler, Colin O'Brady, and Mark Hodelick. And they felt like they needed to come up with a different kind of challenge. We think of Ironman, we think of Spartan races, we think of all these different things that are going on. There is a first place, there is competition, there's all of those things that get you really amped up. 29029 is different. So basically the concept is that they rent out a ski resort for a weekend. And there's about 300 people that show up, 300 crazy people like us. And at 6 a.m. on Friday morning, the clock starts. And you have 36 hours to climb 29,029 feet, the vertical height above sea level of Mount Everest. So how does that work? Well, you climb the mountain and then you ride the gondola back down. You climb the mountain, you ride the gondola back down. Rinse and repeat until you get to 29,029 feet. It's different for every mountain. And at this point, we're up to, how many mountains are we? Are we up to 7 mountains? Is that what it
There's
is,
7
Chris?
mountains, and there's 8 total that have been in the catalog, and there's 7 on the calendar right now.
Okay.
Or 9 total. 9 total that have been in the catalog.
Yeah. So one of the awesome things is you get to hike up, and so much of the destruction on your body is in the hiking back down. Doesn't really give you a lot fitness-wise, but it takes a lot out of your body. So you hike up, and then you get a break while you're on the gondola. Maybe you get a break to talk to somebody. Maybe you get a break to just breathe. Maybe you get a break to have some nutrition. But what's really incredible about 29029 is that there's no competition. There are certainly some people, I'm sure, that want to be the first to cross the finish line. And that's awesome. But whether you're the first to cross the finish line or you finish at 5:59 p.m. on Saturday, it all means the same. And my favorite thing about it is you have 300 like-minded high achievers that truly want as many people as possible to cross that line and get a red hat. So yeah, we're climbing for up to 36 hours for a red trucker hat that says 29029 on it. It's no different than anything else. Ironman, you're doing it for a medal. Leadville, you're doing it for a belt buckle. We have all these different things. So we are climbing this for the prestigious red hat, which incidentally, almost nobody will wear out in public because it is so dang precious and you worked so hard for it. You don't want to scuff on it. You don't want dirt on it. You don't want anything like that. So I think it's a challenge that is incredibly unique in that people work together. People meet other people while they're climbing the mountain. They develop friendships and relationships like we have on the mountain. We're all in this together, not like Ironman where we're sizing each other up and there's only X number of spots for Kona or whatever you're trying to do. This is we're all in it together trying to achieve the same goal. So I think it's an incredibly unique opportunity.
I will say, Eric, you're funny because you talked about so much of the destruction is on the downhill. I just was at an event with a first timer who had completed 19 Ironmans prior to doing this event. And again, it's only walking uphill. It's not the downhill. But he said it was, when he was done, toughest thing hands down he'd ever done. So you talk about the destruction downhill. It was already the toughest thing he'd ever done going uphill. So layer that on to what that could be.
Oh, don't
Uh,
worry, Sid. There's plenty of destruction going uphill too. There's tearing of muscle fibers and breakdown, and we can all relate to that. But I'm sure as heck thankful that we don't have to go back down.
Yeah, we're
100%.
going to talk in a future episode about tearing of more than muscle fibers, just of your core, of your persona, and rebuilding yourself as a function of these events. But to that point, Barbee, about these events, tell me and tell us how you found 29029 to begin with.
Great question, Sid. And I was in that space of Ironman and triathlons, and I just stumbled, honestly, I stumbled upon an Instagram post, and I had been following Jesse Itzler for years. How I never saw this before kind of says to me, you see it when you're supposed to see it. And what was happening at that point is I was just training. I was training for nothing, riding my bike, running, and a friend had asked me if I wanted to do Augusta 70.3, and I said, "Sure, I'm trained, but I wasn't training for it." And in that same couple days, this Instagram post came across of 29029, and it was Coach Chris talking about all the, the cool motivational stuff that you see. But Coach Chris said something in this like short little minute video, and it was, it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. You signed up for hard. And it was those words, and I still have it. I took yellow duct tape, you guys, and I posted it on my bike when I did this 70.3. I was obsessed with 29029. And every time I'd look down, it said, you signed up for hard. So then I started exploring all this 29029. And then I also realized that there's only 300 people per mountain. So how am I going to get in this? So I have to tell you what I did. I was so obsessed with it. I went to their website. I found a sweatshirt. It was a child sweatshirt. It's all they had. So I bought a large child sweatshirt, 29029. I put it on in like the end of September. I wore that sweatshirt every single day until November 4th, which I believe was the day that we were signing up. That's how I'm like, I am going to get into this event come whatever. And then I had, just like I think a lot of us do, I had a computer over here and a computer over here and doing all the things. And when I saw congratulations, you're in, or it just says you're in, I don't remember. I have the screenshot. I think my heart stopped. And then it was, now we go. Now we go. And so I signed up for Jackson Hole. That was the one I wanted. That was the one I got. And Eric, I have to tell you, you didn't get the pleasure of doing Jackson Hole, but this gondola ride down, 5 minutes. If we're lucky, 5 minutes. So I'm trying to do all the things in 5 minutes, and then I get down and then I'm going back up. Not really thinking that, Barbee, you could stop down here and, take in the view and talk to people, but nope, gondola ride down, right back up. So I saw it on Instagram. It spoke to me, things that you've already said, Eric. These are like-minded people. Have the mantra that Colin says. It's Friday morning. It's 6 a.m. on a Friday morning, and you're here to climb a mountain. So all of those things, I wanted to be a part of it. I got in and I did it, and I know we'll talk about at some point what this has done since then, but it's honestly transformed my life. So I'm super
So
excited to talk more about it.
So, Barbee, your first event was Jackson Hole. I had the privilege of meeting you ahead of that event. I was part of the Eager Beavers that also, on November 4th of 2023, signing up and getting into Jackson Hole. That was your first event. You red hatted at that event, correct? And then you've gone on and done some other events since then with 29029. What are the other events that you've done?
So I did Aspen last year, which was amazing. And, every mountain's different. I've done two of them so far of the catalog of 9. I'll be doing Mount Tremblant in 3 weeks from today. And then I also signed up for Steamboat. So those are the 4 right now.
Okay. So is that breaking news that you signed up to do Steamboat this year?
No, it's not breaking news. I signed up. So I signed up for Mount Tremblant with part of KPF. And then because you two know how I'm wired, I'm like, oh, I did three. I can get my black bib at Steamboat, and it happens to be my birthday. So I signed up. So we'll see how Mount Tremblant and then 2 weeks later, Steamboat feels on this kid's body. It's going to be
There you
amazing.
go.
It's going to be
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
That, I mean, that is in terms of wearing a black bib on your birthday, that's gonna, and then a red bib and then a red hat. Um, Eric, why don't you tell us about your first event and other event that you've done with 29 as well as what's on your calendar?
Yeah, and I'd love to do that, but I want to back up because Barbee used three initials that are going to be extremely important in our discussion going forward, and that is KPF. And of the three of us, Sid, you are the most qualified to talk about KPF. So if you could give us the 30,000-foot view of what KPF does and what it means to do a mountain for KPF, what that means, then I'll jump right back in after that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do, Eric. I'll give you the 29,029-foot view of
There you are.
KPF. So the Kyle Pease Foundation, which I referenced in the first episode, which I am an ambassador for, is an organization founded in Atlanta, Georgia, about 15 years ago. In fact, they're celebrating their 15th year right now. And it is an organization started by Brent and his younger brother, Kyle Pease, to enable those with disabilities to participate in sports and beyond. Brent was a lifelong, or not lifelong, but starting in his college years at Florida State, or maybe his community college at Florida State, I'm not sure. But his collegiate years in Florida, um, he was running marathons. He started running Ironmans, and his younger brother, who had cerebral palsy, was at one of those events with him and said, "Hey, Brent, do you think I could do one of those?" And Brent looked at him and says, "I don't know, Kyle, but we're going to figure it out." They relentlessly tried to figure out how to participate in those events. Number one, physically, how to participate in them. In other words, what equipment do they need to have? How do they need to use that equipment? And then they went relentlessly about trying to get into a lot of these events. And so at the time, there was little awareness of people with disabilities participating in these events, particularly when they needed aided assistance. And so finally, they started to work their way into the events and make it into the Ironman circuit itself, and eventually be invited to participate in the Ironman World Championships in 2018. Um, they then followed that up in 2024 with a second trip to the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. And they're the only duo team to ever finish the Ironman World Championships twice. Along the way, they started a foundation where so they could enable others to participate in that. Um, and they've had athletes, I think the number is over 300 athletes, and I will have to go back and check, that have participated in events with the Kyle Pease Foundation, anywhere from local 5Ks to half marathons to half and full Ironmans across the country. Some of these people are ambulatory. Some of these people need wheelchair assistance. Some of these people need other types of assistance. But all told, that they're participating in these events, and it's making their lives a whole lot better. I was fortunate, and we'll talk about this definitely more in a few future episode, but I was fortunate enough to push a friend of mine's older brother, who I've known for a lifetime, in the Publix Half Marathon in March of 2024. And then I was fortunate enough with Eric to push Curtis, one of the Kyle Pease Foundation athletes, in this year's Publix Half Ironman or Publix Half Marathon. So it's a great organization. And in fact, it's tied, and I'll close this off and we'll get back to the conversation about 29029. It's tied to 29029. Brent is the head coach of 29029. And we also have fundraising opportunities for people who want to participate in 29029 through raising funds as opposed to buying a bib directly. And this is something I know Eric and Barbee, you're both doing this year, and I'm very excited and proud of both of you for doing.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
So,
I tell you,
Eric,
with pushing Curtis with Sid in Atlanta for the half marathon was life changing.
Mhm.
And it became this really incredible, and we'll go way deep into this, but it became this incredible reunion of Barbie was there, Sid was there, I was there with my family, some other friends from Utah were there, and it just these are people that you do, man, blood, sweat, and tears together with, and you form this bond that is incredible. And then when you can raise money and help people while you're doing the things that you love, are you kidding me? It is just one of the most unbelievably memorable, life changing, transformative. I run out of superlatives ways of things to do. So we'll get way deeper into that. I'm off track, but I have done two events for 29 The first one I did is at Snow Basin in Utah, and I did that one in 2024. So I was also on the computer at the same time that Barbie was, freaking out the same way. And I was really freaking out because we were in a hotel room away from home. So I was depending on wireless internet working, and I was just jumping off a call in time to be able to get on there. And oh my gosh, sweaty hands, the whole sympathetic response. I mean, and I just, my wife's like, okay, breathe, breathe. And then I think she was probably praying more that I got in than I was because she didn't want to deal with me for a year if I didn't get in, type of situation. So I did Snow Basin, incredible. And then I decided to take on a different challenge in 2025. 29029 has two mountains now that they do an event called Trail. And Trail is you still get 36 hours, but it's 12 hours each day. And each day you have a mountain marathon. And so it's called Trail. And I did mine in Park City, Utah. My wife and I spent a lot of time in Utah, and so I'm really drawn to the Utah races. And then I am also in 8 weeks going to be doing Whistler in British Columbia. So that'll be another mountain event. So super excited about that one. That one I am also doing for KPF, Kyle Pease Foundation, raising money for that as well. So I am super excited.
So, Snow Basin, you red hatted, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I
Yes.
did.
And then at Trail, it's not a red hat, but you're working for what?
Working for a gold scarf, and you think, what is that even? It's really cool, and it's become one of the pictures that's on their promotional material for Trail. When I get done, I'm holding the scarf, and I'm like that, and it was just this moment of holy crap! A mountain marathon is 26.2 ish miles. And so over the 3 days, we were well over 80 miles. And man, you not only do a brutally difficult trail marathon, but then you got to go to sleep and do all the recovery stuff and then get ready and do it again the next day. And if 2 days isn't enough, you got to do it on the third day. So the emotions of crossing that finish line on day three and holding that scarf up, and then you get a bang a gong each day that you finish. And I stopped maturing in some ways in middle school, and so I will run a marathon to bang a gong. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and this is where I met Eric. I met him leading into the trail training, and then physically met him for the first time. And I actually got to spend on day two. I got to spend a significant amount of time with you and what you termed the wolf pack out there in on day two, and so that was a pretty special time. And then you said you're doing Whistler. I'm fortunate. I will say, maybe I'm saying this now preemptively. I'm fortunate enough to be a roommate at that event, so there's going to be more fun times to come, as well as also bringing. This is when I talked in that first episode about how community is a really important thing to me. The people that I mentioned that I grew up with in high school and have done many events with, they're coming back from Jackson Hole, the event that Barbie met them at. They're coming back to do Whistler, so we'll all be there, and so that will be a really special time for me. Um, if you don't mind, Barbie, just you talked a little bit about the events you've done. What did you take out of that first event? What was the most important thing that you took out of that first event, whether it was the achievement of the red hat or the journey along the way? But what did you talk to me a little bit about that? We're going to get into a deeper episode about that, but I want to get the folks
Both.
kind of thinking about what these, yes, or an important. Let's go with an important one, because otherwise the time might be ticking while you try to get to that most important one.
Yeah, there's so many. I will highlight two things, and one comes back to community as well. So during the process of training for 29029, I connected with a group. We called ourselves the Sexy Five. Four other women, and then, well, Sexy Six. I forgot me. I guess I'm not the sexy one.
Not the way I see it, but okay.
So, four other women, another gentleman, and myself. I put out there that I was going to go out to the incline to train for 29029, and it was like, I'll go, I'll go, I'll go. And those other five individuals really became my family. I mean, I had other individuals like you, Sid, and Frankie, and others, but those five people really became my family. And what's really unique about it is they remain my family. I get birthday cards from Paul. Jillian's one of my closest friends. And all of these people I met because of the mountain. So that truly is, you can't buy that. You cannot buy that. The community that grew out of that, the friendship that grew out of it, another one with Eric, with you, Sid, that to me is the bedrock of 29029, and all the other things that came out of it, we'll talk about later, spreading my friend's ashes, connecting with Jesse and Mark and Colleen. I mean, the stories are endless, but the people that become truly your family, that's the bedrock. And that's what I took out of it and continue to take out of it. Who's next? Who do I get to meet next?
Eric, Snow Basin and or trail in Park City, Utah. What were some of the most prolific lessons that you learned from either of those events? Two different events, two different settings, but tell me what was prolific about those events.
Yeah, we're gonna get back to something that we all kind of call the messy middle. But really, what happens is everybody has a lap four in their lives, and lap four sucked for me at Snow Basin. Lap four was when I came face to face with brain fog. It's when I came face to face with, this was my game plan. This is not working out. And to get back to the community, I had met two guys. I didn't know anybody going there, which isn't a problem for me because I love to meet people. It was not a problem at all. Sid and Barbie know that. But I met Tom and Pete early on. Both I met Tom at the briefing before we started, and then I met Pete on lap two. And Pete and I hiked the entire thing together, and Tom was there for most of it. And when things started to go weird and I didn't like where my head was at and I considered quitting, I was able to get wise counsel from both Tom and Pete that they're like, why don't we just go down and let's have lunch? We'll have four done. Let's have lunch. And we'll get you some food and we'll get things right and we'll get going right again. That was my worst lap. I didn't have any what I would call bad laps after that. I had tough laps, but no bad ones after that. And so really, just to sum it up really quick, 1 through 3 is pretty easy because we're excited. We've planned for that early on in a project. Boom, we got this. Laps 11 through 13, if it's Snow Basin, boy, you can see the end from there. The end is in sight. We can get that. But dang it, life is lived in laps 4 through 9. And had I been hiking by myself, had I not met anybody, had I not met anybody who could give me wise counsel, I might have made one of the decisions that I regret the most in my life. I might have pulled myself off the mountain. So it's just the realizing if you're in a lap 4, there's hope. It doesn't have to continue to be that way, but it's important that you're around people to help you through that lap 4.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm really interested to talk more in depth about not only what you call lap 4, but Brent Pease, the head coach, calls the messy middle, and really get into depths in some of these stories about what we have learned from our times on the mountain or the trails, and how we're pulling those lessons, into our everyday lives, and maybe how we will continue to pull some of those lessons forward. I'll close by saying one thing. Brent Pease, he talks about a lot of different, he's done a lot of these events from a coaching perspective, so he knows all the different angles, but he talks about the approach on these things. And his final parting words to people on Friday morning at 6 a.m. is, you don't need to be perfect out there, you just need to get it done. And so that has stuck with me as my personal, thought process through these events is like, you may have visions of how you're going to approach these things, but the truth is, just get it done.
Hmm.
With that said, guys, I appreciate all the storytelling so far. I'm looking forward to more storytelling here on the Thin Line podcast. We are going to work through all of these things in terms of what we can share, what we want to share, and they're not all pretty moments, but we'll work through all that storytelling with you guys going forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sid. Thanks, Eric.